Hello and welcome to the Law Podcast, brought to you by the University of Stirling Law Society. I am your host, Jedd. Today I am joined by Melissa Rutherford, who is a director at Rutherford Sheridan in Glasgow. Melissa emphasises the importance of being trauma aware and how adverse childhood experiences impact the justice system. So, hello everyone and welcome back to the show. Hope we're all doing good. And I hope everyone is doing well in their preparations for their exams. I know when this goes out, we're going to be in exam season. So hopefully all the preparation is going well. And today, I'm delighted to be joined by Melissa. Now, Melissa is a director at Rutherford Sheridan Solicitors in Glasgow, and she works across a wide variety of different legal areas. These include criminal defence, immigration, asylum, and family law, amongst other areas as well. Now, Melissa is on the show today because she is a big advocate for trauma awareness in the legal profession. Now, through her work on this subject, Melissa is part of the Trauma Aware Lawyers and has presented on the topic to universities across the country, which is what brings her on the podcast today. So firstly, Melissa, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you on. How are you doing and how has the past year of COVID treated you?
Hi Jedd, I'm delighted to be on and I'm doing this from my living room. So we are back to a kind of a blended approach to our work at the moment. So sometimes we're in court, sometimes we're in prison, sometimes we're in the office, and on the odd day we're at home. So I'm in my living room today, which is a good place to be.
Yeah, all over the place. It's kind of typical of what COVID's been like.
Absolutely.
But at least you've managed to keep working. That's the main thing.
Yeah, we've all managed.
Yeah, exactly. So for anyone who is unfamiliar with your work or is in the dark as to what trauma awareness involves, could you just give us a brief breakdown as to what it is and just give us an explanation as to what ACEs are?
Absolutely. Hopefully by the end of this you will be in the light and you will be so excited to know about trauma that you will tell everyone who's still in the dark. Yep. But so basically adverse childhood experiences are they're known as ACEs, and they were first identified in a study in the United States of America by two doctors, medical doctors, in 1998. And they have been defined to be stressful events that occur in childhood, and they are identified as things like domestic violence within the family home, parental abandonment by separation or by divorce of the parents, having a parent with mental health problems in the home, being a victim of abuse, and that's either physical, sexual or emotional abuse, a victim of neglect, and that again is either by physical or emotional neglect, and having a member of your household in prison, or growing up where an adult has drug or alcohol addiction issues. But there are also additional types of trauma that come under kind of childhood adversity as well that can be included when we're discussing this as a broader issue, and that can be such things like bereavement within the family, bullying at school or at home, coercive control, homelessness, poverty and violence within the community that a child is growing up in. So these are really the kind of focus on childhood adversity and trauma. That's really what we mean when we're talking about that. Yep,
and obviously that's a very kind of wide net and different experiences and what kids can experience and how that's going to impact on moving forward. So in terms of the legal profession, for you, why is it important and how important is it that lawyers and different legal professionals are aware of these experiences?
Well, I would say that anyone that deals with people, this is absolutely essential for them to know. So that includes lawyers. In law school, we're taught how to deal with people's cases, but we're never taught how to deal with people. And unfortunately, as lawyers, we deal with people that are in the most stressful situations of their life, whether that be having being prosecuted, so they're appearing in court, whether it's having their children taken off them or going through a contact action with their ex-partner over their children, or for things like criminal injuries compensation because they've been abused or they've been assaulted, and even such things as conveyancing when you're buying a house. That's a very stressful experience. So we deal with essentially, I would say I deal with people's problems. I try and sort everyone else's problems out. So if you are dealing with people and you're dealing with people in stressful situations, having knowledge about the trauma that people have faced and how trauma impacts the way they behave and the way they present is absolutely key.
Yeah, it's definitely important to kind of have that perspective and understand where that sort of thing is coming from. So you presented at our trauma awareness event on Thursday, the 15th of March, alongside a few other excellent guests. And as previously mentioned, you've also presented to a number of unis across Scotland. So what is the motivation for this, and what are you hoping to achieve by conducting these presentations?
So I first began finding out about childhood trauma, about 4 years ago, and I basically completely fell upon it. I put my daughter into a nursery, and it was an attachment-led nursery. I didn't even know what that meant. So they were quite engaging with the parents. They put on events. I went to see one, and it was a Dr. Zedike, who is a child psychologist who is quite heavily involved in trauma and adverse childhood experiences, and that introduced me to the world of trauma. I then started engaging in social media, going to events, and after about 3 or so years of this, I felt like we had to do something. So there's another lawyer, Ian Smith, who had been he arrived at another path but came to the same place, and essentially we got together with a couple of other lawyers, Tony Bone and Nadine Martin, and decided that we had to do something, and Trauma Aware Lawyers was formed, and that is basically where we went. With that, we decided that the people that need to know this information are the lawyers. We're lawyers. We want everyone to know. We try our best in our own jurisdictions at court to tell everyone that will listen, but we wanted to go to the law schools to ensure that the future lawyers were aware of this and then could progress their skills, develop their skills, and when they go into practice, be the best lawyers that they can be. Yeah,
and I think the motivation behind that is really important, because I can imagine as targeting law schools, you're typically targeting the younger professionals who are coming up and who haven't been exposed to the legal industry, haven't been working there for years and haven't developed any sort of habits. Whereas if you try to maybe preach this to people who've been practicing for 20, 30 years, they've been doing it for years on end, they've already got different habits, and they might not be as receptive to the message. So has that been something that you found when you've been speaking to maybe like judges or whatever, who are typically older and been working for much longer than these young professionals? Has it been much of a kind of barrier in that communication?
Absolutely. I teach on the diploma at Strathclyde University, so I am very used to dealing with students who are, you know, they're so engaging, they're so interested, they're so motivated, they've such a good attitude towards wanting to be in the legal profession, wanting to know more, wanting to do the best they can. And then when you go to work, you're dealing with people that have been doing the job 20, 30 years, and they're jaded and they're fed up, and, you know, they've seen thousands of clients, and, you know, they're like, so what, basically. And that attitude kind of follows through with a lot of the decision makers. So that's your judges and your sheriffs. So we are still trying to make a difference at the top, but we decided that we will go to the eager beavers and the ones that can change the world, who are the ones that are up and coming, that are starting their careers. And if we start at the bottom and start bringing everyone through, when they're starting their profession, hopefully, you know, in 10 years' time, all of the lawyers will be trauma aware and will be doing their job through a trauma-informed lens.
Yeah, and that should have a lot of kind of momentum behind it, because if all these young lawyers are coming up who are aware, like you say, are trauma aware, should I say, then it's really going to kind of force the hands of the older individuals who've been working for, like you say, 20, 30 years. You know, they're going to be the ones that are in the dark now. They're going to be the odd one out who's not trauma aware, as opposed to now, but it could be people like yourself who are trying to, you know, you probably feel like you're beating the same drum over and over again, trying to get people to be trauma aware. And when you have so many people in the profession who are not willing to budge on that stance, then it can be I can imagine it can be quite difficult for you to deal with. So on the other side of that, how have the presentations been? I know for us, we had a lot of really good feedback from the event, and everyone found it really interesting and also very important. So how have those presentations been generally? Has it been good?
We've had wonderful feedback. It all happened quite quickly, and it was a bit of a kind of roadshow that got set up almost by accident, but I think it's worked really, really well. We started at Strathclyde. I was asked by Stuart Kelly on the diploma to give a talk to his students, and we just kind of snowballed from there. And I think we actually managed to speak to all of the law schools in Scotland over the past few months, which has been excellent. And everyone has been really interested. I've had some great feedback personally through LinkedIn, through other forms of social media, and also I've heard through other people that the students have enjoyed it. I think they've seen it as something that they've not had throughout either their LLB or the diploma course. And I think they have seen it as an important skill that they should learn and they should know. So that's really been really excellent for us to hear. But we know we're speaking to the right people because they get it.
Yeah. And for us as a society, we've had some feedback from our members kind of over the past few months saying that a lot of our events have been kind of commercially focused and kind of more geared towards those who want to go down the traditional route of going to work in a big commercial firm. And we kind of found out through different bits of research that we actually have a lot of members who don't want to go down that route and are in this industry or looking to go into the legal profession to make a difference to just individual people who really need their help. And that's why we wanted to put this event on, because it was something which we hadn't really spoke about before. And obviously, again, I said this at the event, but a massive shout out to Khadija for putting me on to Melissa in the first place in her work through Trauma Aware Lawyers in Scotland. And it was a really successful event, and it took even me by surprise just how moving it was and how key this issue is moving forward. And I'm really glad that we managed to put this on for our members, and not even just our members, but from people across Scotland turned up to see it. And we had a really good, healthy discussion, open platform about the issue, and it was really, really great to be a part of. So moving forward, Melissa, what is the plan for Trauma Aware Lawyers? Are you going to keep conducting these presentations to universities? Or are you kind of looking to streamline it in some way, or are there different plans for you guys?
Well, obviously we want to take over the world, but we'll start, that's an obvious conclusion, but we'll start with where we are. John Carnachan always has a quote that start where you are, do what you can. And we've done that. So we now are moving on to the next part, which is working with the Law Society. We've been in talks with them, and we're going to develop an accredited course about trauma, so that people can attend and get an accreditation at the end of that. It's going to be a certain number of hours that will cover their continued professional development for the year, and it's obviously something that's really important. They're also talking at the annual conference, the Law Society conference this year, which is excellent, which is next week. And moving forward, we want to, and we've had discussions with a couple of law schools and the Law Society about incorporating trauma into either the LLB or the diploma. So it's going to be probably not a full course, like your criminal or civil or anything like that, but there's definitely going to be in the course going forward. So that is, huge for us, because it just shows that there is an appetite, not only from the students, but from the providers of the LLB and the diploma, that they are aware that it needs to be included because it is so important. So that is where we'll be hopefully working towards bringing that in, hopefully starting in September, but I guess that remains to be seen with the logistics of it.
Yep, and that would be amazing. That's actually one of the questions I had down here was, are there any plans to have trauma awareness integrated to either the LLB or DPLP? And I think that would be very beneficial. As someone who obviously sat through the presentation, it feels like it's such a massive topic which doesn't really get spoken about enough. And I remember at the event, when we'd been talking for like an hour and a half, I had to try and bring the event to a close, and I felt bad, because I did say to everyone, like, we've been speaking here for an hour and a half, we've had some great discussions, some great presentations, but it feels like we're really only scratching the surface, and we could have went on all night and still had more to talk about. And that really just shows the kind of magnitude of this issue and how important it is. So when you say you've been talking to different law schools about integrating this into the LLB or the DPLP, how have those discussions been? Have they been very receptive, and has it been a healthy dialogue?
Yes. So after our talk, immediately Strathclyde were like, we want this. I'll have discussions with you about putting this in our course going forward. And Robert Gordon University were very, very keen. The Law Society were amazed that the providers were so keen. So the Law Society have been, really impressed with the way everyone is so welcoming of it. But I think that just shows it's a change in the landscape. It's a change of where we are. People care about people. And it's not so much about making loads of fees and, sending emails and looking at contracts. It's about protecting people. Jail doesn't work. We've got the biggest prison population. Nothing like that works. We need to turn the system on its head, and we need to work out how we do that. And by understanding trauma, the way it impacts people, their behaviour, and what they need to get back to a place of safety, and not to be involved in the criminal justice system. It's not just in lawyers' benefits, it's for the whole of society.
Yep, I definitely agree with what you're saying there. So let's just say in a hypothetical situation, this was implemented into the LLB or DPLP. Is that something which you would be looking to teach on yourself?
We haven't got to that stage of discussion yet about what it would look like, right. But I think there could be availability for that, whether it be a recorded kind of video or something like that, or it be the resources that we've helped prepare. I don't know, we've not really got to that stage yet. Obviously, there's only 4 of us in the Trauma Aware Lawyers, and we all work full-time and have other commitments, for example, charity boards and things like that, and children, so that we do have a lot of commitments. And if things are going back to normal, it makes it difficult travelling all over Scotland. Via Zoom is much more easy to integrate into your life, because you don't have to include the travel. So I guess we just have to see what that'll look like for each university, and I would imagine that each university will want to do it slightly differently as well. Yeah,
and I definitely agree with what you're saying about Zoom and integrating it into your life, because it's something that we've kind of had discussions about as well, and how obviously we want to get back to normal and get back to kind of in-face or face-to-face kind of events and stuff. But we also thought, we were only really able to put on the trauma awareness event because of Zoom. I think it's something we do want to kind of blend in and can definitely utilise moving forward. So for anyone who is interested in this issue and would like to learn more, are there any sources you'd like to point them to?
Yes, first of all, the best thing to start with is the little video produced for the NHS on ACEs. You can find it on YouTube. It's a couple of minutes long, and watching that, it just really brings it home about how important it is. The statistics that I discussed at the lecture as well, that I just think they are like a sledgehammer. They bring home how important it is and how much trauma affects people and their development and their behaviour. So I would watch the video. There's also loads of other resources that I'm happy to be shared with anyone that would want to learn more. We've got a number of different kind of books you can read. There's loads of resources online, little kind of TED Talks as well that are 5-10 minutes long. But there's tons of stuff out there if you want to learn more, and I'm happy to be contacted directly on social media or through the uni as well if there's any guidance needed on that. Yep.
And on that kind of point, Melissa was kind enough to send us over a bunch of resources on this topic. So we have access to these, and we're happy for anyone listening to email us, and we can send you across a wide variety of different resources on this topic. It's something that I've went through and looked at as well, and there's a lot of valuable, interesting stuff in there. So if anyone is interested, feel free to drop us an email, which is star.law.soc@gmail.com, and we'll get them over to you. So yeah, I think that brings us to a close. Melissa, thank you very much for coming on the show, and again, thank you to all 4 of you for presenting at our trauma awareness event. It was really moving, really interesting, and it really did cover an important topic, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how this moves forward and kind of where it goes. And I really would like to see a trauma awareness, some sort of module or segment or whatever it may be, implemented into the LLB or indeed the DPLP. So thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me, and me too. That's the dream, isn't it?
Thank you very much for listening to another episode of our podcast. If you like what you hear, please follow us on your podcast platform of choice to ensure that you never miss an upload. To keep up to date with us, you can follow our Instagram page, which is Star Law Society. Additionally, our Twitter is @_Star Law Society. In the meantime, it's goodbye from me, and I'll speak to you again very soon.